Hello everyone, welcome to Templates in WPF. In this tutorial we are going to talk about templates, mainly two types of templates, control templates and data templates. And we are going to start with control templates. So what control templates allows us to do is override the default template that WPF provides us, which is this button here, or actually all of the buttons right now, and create our own custom templates. It's about visual appearance of a control. Okay, so basically you are telling your application how to display your control versus the default style, default template. Okay, so far I have a grid with two columns, a stack panel in left column, which has two text blocks and a button, and a stack panel in the right column with 4 text blocks and a button. Okay. All right, so we are going to start. We're going to keep the first one as a default button, and we are going to start with the button 2, which is right here. Actually, let me zoom in and let's focus on that part here. Okay, so button 2 is going to be our first example. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to expand this button tag, and inside here we're going to start templating our button. So it's like getting a sketchbook and drawing your own button. Alright, so I'm going to start with button.template. Okay, so we closed our button template tag. Okay, so the first thing we need in our button tag is a control template. At this point, we are starting to template our button, and as you can see, we lost the button because right now we are saying, okay, you don't worry about how to display the button. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to draw it for you, and you just basically display what I tell you to do. All right, so let's say I want a grid. Okay, inside our grid, let's say I want an ellipse. Let's give it a height of 50, width of 50, and close this out. Now we have something here, but still we don't show the ellipse because we don't have a fill. Maybe let's say orange. Okay, now we got our ellipse. All right, next I want to have a text block, and I want to say my new template. Okay, all right, so let's run this. Okay, now we have a ellipse. It's still taking the whole space because we didn't specify any height and width for our button. So right now the grid is the root layout of our button. Okay, so if I set the width to say 200, you'll see the button shrunk to a width of 200. Okay, and now I can say my text block, I want this vertical alignment to be center and horizontal alignment to be center. Okay, and then let's give a background to our grid. Let's say how about, let's go with turquoise. Okay, probably not the perfect color combination, but I'll do the job. Alright, so now we have a different looking button than what we had before. Let's run this again. Okay. Now we have successfully overwritten the default template, and we set our properties inside our control template. Let's see what happens when I set the background inside the button. Let's say background of red. Okay. Alright, nothing happened because again, the background we specified in our control template takes precedent. So it overwrites the default, the button tag. Alright, but that's where actually template binding comes in. Okay, we can give the control back to the button tag by setting the property to template binding. Let's say background. Okay, now once we do that, we are giving the control of the background back to the button tag. Now this one will work. Okay, so that's template binding. Alright, let's move on to our next example. I'm going to go to next button and expand this button tag. So here again we're going to start with the button.template. Okay, this time let's say I want grid, actually control template, grid. Let's have, this time let's have 2 columns inside our grid. Okay, and I want the second column to be twice as wide as the first one, so 2 star, and come inside here. So in the first grid I want a canvas. Okay. In the second column I'd like to add a text block and say set the text to button. Okay, let's actually give it a font size 2 maybe. Let's go with 20. Okay, and put this actually inside grid.column 1. Alright, next I'm going to add a height and width to the grid. Let's go with 100 to 200. Okay, next I want to add 3 ellipses to my canvas. I'm going to give it a height and width of 20. And a fill of, let's go with black, and close this out. Okay, now I'm going to copy and paste this a couple times. Oops, what did just happen? Change to purple. Oh, you know what? Let's keep purple. I must have copied from somewhere else. All right, so we got 3 ellipses sitting on top of each other. Let's align them. So I'm gonna set the canvas dot left or top. Actually, let's start with top. Let's go with 50 for the first one and second one. I wanted canvas dot top to be 50, and the second one, canvas dot top, I want this to be like 30 maybe. All right, and then I want to adjust the canvas left. So canvas left, let's see, the first one I want the canvas left to be 15, the second one to be 25, and the third one to be 35. Perfect. Almost. I'm gonna adjust the top on the first, the second, the middle one. I'm gonna change the top to 33. Okay, perfect. All right. So now we have a little more complex template. Let me set the horizontal alignment and the vertical alignment on the text block as well, so it looks nicer. It's all about presentation, isn't it? All right, so now we got a cool looking button. Let's run this. I should have given a background too, I think. Yeah, because it doesn't really. All right, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get a background to the grid, and also this background of let's say the blue, and let's give grid lines visibility. Let's give it a grid line visibility of show grid lines actually to true. Let me change this to orange again. I think orange is better with the purple. Depends. All right, so now we got a more complex template, and with ellipses, text blocks, grids, and all that stuff. All right, so this one we are going to actually, you know what? I don't want to set the text blocks here, because again, remember, this template can be somewhere else, right? So we want to be able to set the content right here inside our button. So we can create the button anywhere in our application, but the template can be somewhere else. So you don't want to chase the template all the time. So that's where the content presenter will come in. So instead of text block, we are going to use the content presenter. Okay. All right, so now we have the content presenter here, but we didn't give it we still need to give it a grid.column where to display the content. And we still got nothing. Let's see, horizontal alignment, let's give it center. We should get this content back. Okay. Let's get a vertical alignment of center. So we still don't have, normally this should, what we are doing here, we are giving the control of the content part of the content property back to a button tag. Normally we should be able to see this here displayed. Instead of setting here inside text box, we are saying the button can have the content property. So I think the reason we don't have it, we have to set the target type here. So if I say target type button, now we should get our content back here. Okay, so that's what content presenters do. It gives the content property back to button. Okay, because again, remember, we are templating the button, we are overriding all the properties and all that stuff. So, but we want some of the properties to go back to the button tag. So when we create a button, we can apply the template, and we still can set some of the common properties that we use often inside the button. Yeah, you don't want to edit the template all the time. Okay. All right, so now we can set the font size here. You know what I'm saying? Okay. All right, so that's that. Let's see how much space we have. Not much. So I'm gonna move some of the stuff to left side. Let's move the first example here to first column. Let's go underneath here and paste in here. I think we should be able to fit the second example as well. So I'm going to copy and paste the second example. Okay. All right. Pretty good. All right, so far we have seen how to do it locally inside the button, but oftentimes we want this template to be a resource so we can apply it to all the buttons that we have. All right. So we can do this a couple of different ways. One of which we can copy and paste this template. Let's copy and paste this whole control template, everything between control template tags, and create a window.resources tag up here, and paste in here. Now once we do that, we are going to need a key, because it requires a key. And let's say my button template, my btn temp. Okay, now we can assign to the template, we can assign to our next button that we have, button 4 here. Let's say template property, we're going to set this to binding resource, and we want the static resource my button template. Right, so we successfully added that template to our button. So that's explicit binding, templating. We can also do this implicitly, and for that we are going to need to use a style. So let's say let's actually not inside the template tag, it need to be inside the style tag. So we're going to open a style tag, and we need a target type again, button. Our target is button. Close the tag, and here we're going to need a setter. Our setter will be template, a property called template. Well, is the template property. So the value, setter.value, is going to be the whole thing that we just copied paste the control template. So I'm going to paste it again. Now as soon as I do that, it applied right away to this last one. Okay, So the last button, button 5, we didn't even say anything here. Button 5, it just applied it because that's implicitly we are applying as a style. So style, you can do implicit and explicit. You can go either way, but templates, you have to assign a key. Alright, so that's implicit and explicit templating. Let's see. So far we have done locally. We did as a resource inside our main window. So in this resources here applies to, we can use any button inside the same window, but if you want to use through the application, if you have more than one window, we can copy and paste it to our app.xaml file. Let's see over here, app.xaml. Let's open this up. Oops, wrong one. Not the CS, we need the app.xaml. Okay, we can paste in here and we can apply that way too. In that case, it will become a dynamic resource versus static resource. So let's try that. Actually, you know what? Let's do that for our next example. Let's add another one. You know what? Let's let me go up here, change the color in our last one so we can tell the difference. So let's say blue or black, so you guys know which one is which. And actually, you know what? I'm thinking about it. I'm gonna change colors on each one of these. So the first one we'll keep that. Well, this one here, we'll keep it same color because that was our first example with the template inside the button itself. This one is a static resource, so let's change the color on that. Let's go with red. Okay, so makes life easier to tell the difference between which one is which. Sometimes it gets too complicated. All right. Okay, so we did static resource, we did locally, we did as a style, and applied to style applies to all the buttons. And to prove that, let's just add a button here and give it a content of button 6 and close this out. And now this button already has the style coming from our, let's see where it's coming from. Purple is inside here. Why I'm getting the purple color? I should be getting from the style. Let's build this. There you go. Okay, a little glitch there. Alright, so let me actually add a text block here too. I'm just gonna copy and paste this. So this one actually was static resource. This last example will be dynamic resource. Well, maybe the last before, maybe the one before the last, because I want to cover something else. All right. So this one will be dynamic resource example. So for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste that style we just added up here. We can do template as well. Let's do both maybe, who knows. Let's do template first. Control template and paste it in app.xaml. And let's change the color again to something that we can tell the different where it's coming from. Okay, so this one, let's change the key to my button template, my dynamic button template maybe. Button template. Okay, let's go back to our main window.xaml and build this. Okay, now let's go to our last button and get the style from our dynamic resource. So template binding source. This one will be dynamic resource, my dynamic button template. Okay. All right, now we can, since this is in app.xaml, we can use this throughout the application on different windows, different forms, different buttons. It's available everywhere throughout the same application. If you want to take this one step further, then you can use it as a resource dictionary. I have, I think, a tutorial about that when we did the styles. You can put in a resource dictionary and use that file for different applications as well. Okay, let me actually do the style too. Let's copy that style. Paste in app.xaml. And this will still work. I think it should still work. Let's if we don't set a key, let me go back to here and delete this one from here. I think it should still work, maybe not. Let's build this. Yes, it still works. So implicitly works, it explicitly works too. So this was the content template was explicit, the style is implicit, so it applies to all the buttons when we don't set the template or the style inside the button tag. So in other words, if I remove from, let's say this one, if I remove this template binding, the implicit one should apply right away, which as you can see it did. Alright, let's back it up. Okay, so we covered implicit, explicit, static resource, dynamic resource. Let's see what else is left. Okay, so we'll do one last example. This one, I'm gonna add another button here, and let's give it a see content of last example. Let's say last example. Okay, it should get the default. We don't have enough room here because, let me see, maybe we can move over to the next one. Probably not gonna fit there too. In that case, let's see, I may have to resize the window, maybe increase the height. Where's my window? Up here. Let's do 550. Okay. So now we can see that. Let's give it a margin too. It's just attached to the top one, the one above. Let's get a margin of say 10. All right. So for this one, let me run this application one more time. Well. So we get a problem here. It says dynamic resource extension cannot be set on source property of binding. Let's see. Maybe we don't need the binding part. I think that's what it says. Let's try again. I don't need the second one, I think. Let's try one more time. Yep. So we don't need that extra binding source. All right. So just we can directly say dynamic resource. That's why we get that error. Alright, so I was going to actually talk about the triggers for this last examples, but I realized I have already covered that in my custom button control. So I'm gonna leave it right here. So that's it for control templates. In the next part we are going to cover the data templates. Alright, until then, take it easy, have a good one.